Hi and good day. Now, before we move on further, let us look at some pictures. Now, this is an event called I Want to Touch a Dog, and this was held in 2014 in one of the shopping malls in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I'm just wondering whether you are familiar with this particular event. The event was held with the purpose of increasing familiarity that Muslims have towards dog, as well as removing the taboo that Muslims had toward this animal because this animal is haram, therefore it cannot be touched, therefore we should not even care about this animal. Now, I'm sure that the organizers of this particular event held the program with all the right reasons. However, this event had received such a huge backlash and criticism. I'm just wondering, have you known about this program? Would you go? Would you like to participate in it? And how is your feeling towards this event? Are you feeling disgusted? Do you feel like this is okay? Or you are like rejecting, like this is like a big no-no and complete waste of time? Or are you okay with it? For me, personally, when I found out about this event, um, I thought it was okay. I, in fact, thought that it was a very good program because I do understand and see things from the eyes of the organizer that Muslims had this unnecessary taboo just because dogs are haram, therefore it's a big no-no. But because this event made such a headline, fatwa was released with regard to touching dogs, and then we know that we should not touch dog without any solid reasons. And also insult towards religion. This is on a different note. Insults towards any religion for that matter. And several years back, this has also caused a huge uproar on the internet, particularly with this one, baju or dress, Miss Universe nasi lemak. It even comes with sunny side up, kelas kau, with fried anchovies. I do get the dress, okay. I think it's kind of interesting, very unique and appealing. But what I don't get are the pelepah pisang di belakang itu. Macam, okay. And of course, we also had baju KLCC, also worn by Miss Universe. And in fact, Miss Universe Thailand had worn baju tuk-tuk or tuk-tuk dress to the pageant. And let's not forget George Floyd, the slogan, I can't breathe, the slogan for Black Lives Matter movement. I'm make sure I say things correctly. Following the death of George Floyd on May 26th, that's about a month ago. And this has caused major cities in the United States to be filled with protesters and rioters, and the cost of losses has been estimated to be more than 2 billion US dollars. People are upset. They are really, really mad with all these racial discriminations. Um, I don't want to sound like a newscaster. I'm sure you follow this event as well. So if you look at these pictures and you feel agitated, annoyed, upset, uncomfortable, that is because these pictures have hit raw, your affective domain. Which brings us to today's video. We are going to look at specifically the taxonomy of educational objectives, affective domain. So my name is Amy Zakaria. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope that this video benefits you and your professional life. And for today's session, we are going to look at one domain, which is affective. Tax, we have done taxonomy of cognitive domain. We have looked at all the 6 levels of lower order thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. Now it's time to look at another domain, which is affective. And if you still remember, the word taxonomy struck people as weird when it was first introduced because people did not understand what taxonomy was. Even for teachers, the use of framework in assessment was very, very strange back then. But now, Bloom's taxonomy is one of the most widely used taxonomy in many, many countries. Now, the word taxonomy refers to classifications and basically categorization of educational objectives or learning outcomes. You can read the slides on your own. I'm just going to like go briefly, yet stopping at some points which are important and then give some examples. Blooms and his colleagues have produced three taxonomies, one for each of the domains of learning. So in learning, there are three major domains that intertwine that makes learning successful, and these are cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. So Bloom's and his colleagues have produced the taxonomy of cognitive domain in 1956, and that was the first taxonomy ever invented. And in 1964, Krathwohl, Bloom, and Misha went on to produce a taxonomy of affective domain. And finally, in 1974, Simpsons produced the taxonomy of psychomotor domain. So it's 1973. Now, please understand that there are a lot of other taxonomies out there that have been developed, tested, and found effective and used in many, many contexts of educational settings. Right, I guess the easiest way to understand affective domain is by associating the word affective with emotion, because this is what the taxonomy is about. It basically describes the feelings, emotions, tones, mood that learners have when they learn. However, within the educational context and within the context of learning outcomes, the attributes of affective go beyond mere feelings and emotions. It involves more complex and complicated attributes such as appreciation, collaboration, leadership, motivation, self efficacy, patriotism, empathy, sensitivity. So, all these are instilled and ingrained within our curriculum and should be taught as part of lessons and integrated into the lessons to achieve the educational objectives within the context of affective domain. I'm going to show you some examples, so don't worry, this is easy peasy. Okay, read on your own. Continue. So, tada! Batuk tapi nak tada juga kan. So this is introducing the taxonomy of affective domain produced by Krathwohl, Bloom, and Misha in 1964. There are several taxonomies for affective domain produced after this, but I myself personally feel like to date nothing is able to beat this. Okay, and it contains 5 levels, quite similar in a way that other taxonomies by Bloom's operate. It is of increasing levels of complexity from the lowest level to the highest level. And of course, when it comes to educational settings and the achievement of learning outcomes, we do want students to be able to get to this level, right? Read on your own. So this is the most beloved Mr. Krathwohl. So basically, Krathwohl and his colleagues had difficult time trying to define and describe what exactly constitute affections or emotions. Cognitive is something that you can observe when students have acquired cognitive thinking or cognitive attributes. They're able to demonstrate these cognitive skills through certain processes or assessment tasks. However, this is not the same with affective domain because the nature of affective, it is not observable, it is inside, and it's very, very difficult to determine what exactly that goes on in here. So basically you can read on your own. There is also assumption that says that once we are able to achieve cognitive objective, then somehow eventually the affective objectives will follow. Meaning that if students are able to achieve or acquire cognitive processes, then eventually the affective attributes will follow. And it's also interesting within the context of education, each subject does have an integration of affective requirements or teaching within affective domain, but the blend and the concentration is different between one subject to another. For physical and health education, for example, physical education does have and integrations of affective domain when they teach certain sport skills or games. Teachers do have to formulate within the Malaysian context learning outcomes for all the three domains: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. However, you can basically trace dominations of affective domain within health education. History, for example, the teaching and learning of history is purely cognitive. However, the objectives or the goal of history is affective. So we teach history using predominantly cognitive, but the goal of teaching is affective. So as teachers, it's very important to know where certain topics lies and have very deep understanding of the underlying domain of the content that you teach, because different content will acquire different use of taxonomy. So if you are teaching a content or topics that is predominantly cognitive, hence you have to use taxonomy of cognitive domain. But if you are looking or teaching content that is effectively ingrained, then you have to use the taxonomy for affective. um, I used to have one group of students who did one of the assignments. So in the assignment, it has been specifically stated that the students have to construct one test based on cognitive domain. But without consulting me, the students went ahead and developed a test in Pendidikan Moral. So when they tried to use or develop questions for pendidikan moral or civic education using Bloom's taxonomy cognitive domain, they found that it is not possible. The reason being because civic education is basically attributes of learning within affective domain, and what they should use was basically the taxonomy for this domain. So it's very important for you to be sure your own content, what exactly is the domain, and use the appropriate taxonomy for that particular domain. Right, let's move on. Okay, so this is the Krathwohl taxonomy of affective domain. So we just take the name of the first author. Basically, it's the work of Krathwohl, Blooms, and Misha. But we are just going to call this taxonomy as Krathwohl taxonomy. So basically, it has five levels, unlike cognitive taxonomy, which has six levels. This one has five. It begins with receiving or receive, and finally characterizing. So now, in order to explain how do the levels on affective taxonomy work, we will have to revisit cognitive domain, because this is then will be very apparent the differences between these two taxonomies. Now, with the taxonomy of cognitive domain, the six levels on Bloom's, and as long as your brain matures, then your brain is able to think at all the six different levels. Okay, and the reason why we have sudden focus more on higher order thinking skills is not because our brain is not able to exercise or thinking at this level, but because we found that within educational setting, assessment and classroom materials, for example, we don't have enough materials or assessment tasks or items that address thinking skills at this level. Not because we are not thinking enough at this level, but because in educational setting, there's a need to look at this more. When it comes to affective domain, it's not the same, it's quite different. And when we look at affective domain, you have to shift your mindset a little bit. Cognitive is about thinking process, but affective domain is about values, um, attitudes, motivations, anything or any actions which the underlying factor is motivation, for example. So, values such as trying to quit smoking, trying to lose weight, I have to cook more and buy lesser food outside. I need to stop eating fast food. I need to exercise more. I need to go to gym. So all this, which apparently seem like a psychomotor related behavior, the underlying of all these behaviors is affective. Okay, and for all of these values and behavior, um, your position on this affective taxonomy will be different. Say, for example, you are a heavy smoker and you are trying to quit being the keyword. Have tried so many times without being successful, have tried vape, but then going back to smoking, for example. So, in terms of trying to quit smoking, you are here. Okay. And if you are not going up, if you are not trying effectively, then you will probably be here for the rest of your life. Okay. But other things in your life, for example, I need to cook healthy food. I need to eat more vegetable and eat less sugary products, for example. So, and you are basically able to do that. You have cooked more healthy food, eat more vegetable. In fact, every time you eat, you make sure that you have a vegetable portion in your food. So, in terms of that particular value, you are here. Okay. And say, for example, you believe that gym is not good. Like, what gym? I can just exercise at home. So, in terms of the value of going to gym, you are not even here. So, I read one book a long time ago about affective domain. I just can't remember the name of the author. In addition to all these existing five domains, the author actually placed another level underneath receiving, which is rejecting. Meaning that if you reject something, you'll not even in the first level of affective domain, which I find it quite interesting and agree with it. Okay, so just know that in terms of affective domain, in terms of your life, you have so many values, actions, and behaviors that define your life. For each of these values, actions, and behaviors, your positions on this affective domain or levels will be different. So I'm going to give examples after this and in my explanations of each of these levels. So what I'm showing you now is a few pages from document standard curriculum dan pentaksiran. First, we begin with pendidikan seni visual, just to show to you how important is affective attributes, and it is in fact specifically stated in the learning outcomes that teachers have to teach or expose the students in their lessons. So this is pendidikan seni visual tingkatan 4 dan 5. Uh, of course, for PSV or visual art education, it does have fair share of effective attributes. And I've just taken one out, which is seni halus with the topic of seni cetakan. And under 4.4, so if you were to refer to the document, this is on page 37. Penghayatan terhadap hasil karya seni cetakan dengan menggunakan bahasa seni visual dan pemikiran seni visual. So penghayatan or appreciations and observation is basically learning context within effective outcome. So being teachers, you don't have to tweak some of your learning outcome. It is basically has been presented in your DSKP and your curriculum document. You just need to make sure that when you are dealing with outcomes for effective domain, then teach with the use of affective taxonomy. This is English literature for Form 4 and Form 5. Um, the thing about literature which I love is that it's clearly stated the concentrations for affective domain. For example, when we look at 3.0, um, under these particular learning standards, which is poetry, if I'm not mistaken. Understand, analyze, and appreciate different ways writers, poets, playwrights, and so on and so forth. So appreciation is also learning within affective domain. For pendidikan jasmani dan kesihatan, well, I love PJK, DSKP because in comparison to other curriculum documents, the effective elements or components in PJK is super clearly stated. Okay, for example, even with the components of pendidikan jasmani, the elements or the components of affective domain are specifically stated. For example, here I've taken one out, which is bola baling, a game that has to be taught for Form 2 students. And for every game which PHE teachers teach, there is a component for tanggungjawab kendiri or responsibility. And under this tanggungjawab kendiri, it is definitely effective. And with health education or pendidikan kesihatan, which is predominantly effective, I've taken two out, pengurusan mental dan emosi, where you can see the ability to organize or manage your mental and emotion in your daily lives, as well as kekeluargaan, which is very much effectively ingrained. So now we are going to look at each and every single level under the affective domain. So we do have 5 levels, and the lowest is receiving. Before we get into each level, I'm just going to go through with every level briefly. In doing so, I'm going to use one example and demonstrates how this example is different for each level. And the example which I'm going to use is my mother-in-law. Well, I have never thought that I will be talking about my mother-in-law in my YouTube video, for God's sake. But I believe that she's the best example in relation to demonstrating how each level works and how each level is different. So my mother-in-law doing very, very well. She's 78 years old this year. She has 12 children, and my husband is his 11th son. Okay, and she was, keyword being was, she was a heavy smoker. And I don't mean that she smoked tobacco leaf products. No, she smoked Benson and Hedges, and she would smoke 3 boxes of Benson and Hedges in 2 days. And I would be perceived as menantu kesayangan. Every time when I visited her, I would bring a box of cigarette. Kalau I bawa buah ke, like orange or kiwi or anything, macam tak layan je. Hello, what she wanted was cigarette. Because cigarette was, well, expensive even back then. So this was, okay? So she had been smoking heavily ever since she was pregnant with her 4th child. All right. And she was still smoking even after I got married to her son. So the thing is, she had been smoking for like 30 or 40 years, so that long of span of heavy smoking. Um, and all interestingly, none of the children smoke, not even all his 4 sons. Nobody smoked in the house except her. So that's an ironic thing, isn't it? Um, so the thing is, all of her kids, all of her menantu had been advising her, Ma, please stop smoking. It's not good for your health. And every time when people say this and advising her, she would say, "Alah, diamlah, aku okay je, aku sihat. See, I'm even healthier than you," which in fact it was true. Okay, so in relation to, I'm just going to go back to my levels on affective domain. In relation to affective domain, she was in fact here rejecting. In terms of the value of quitting smoking, she did not even make it into the domain or the taxonomy. She was rejecting. Okay. So it went on for years and years. She kept on smoking. She was happy with it. She was healthy, alhamdulillah. And one day, she was down with stroke. She got her first stroke attack. The first, okay? Meaning that there will be more, right? She got her first stroke attack, causing her body to be half paralyzed. And when she was hospitalized, and when doctors was trying to find the reasons for her strokes and that kind of stuff, and found out because she was smoking, and the doctors were very upset. Okay, and the doctors gave stern order, Makcik, you must quit smoking. And she said, okay, okay, I will quit smoking. So the moment when you feel the need to do something, okay, you receive the information, then you are here receiving. Now, with my mother in law, she is now in the first level of the taxonomy. In terms of quitting smoking, she is receiving. Just receiving the information, agreeing that the information is correct, but not doing anything yet. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the actual slide for that particular level. So you can read this on your own. I'm just going to explain based on that one example. And of course, after that, you'll be able to see the association. So she has not done anything. She just received the information. She believes that, yes, I need to quit smoking. Otherwise, it'll be worse for me. Okay. And then she tried to quit smoking. She tried, right? Because she was in the hospital. Nobody wanted to smuggle cigarette inside the hospital ward. So when she tried, when there's some action on her part, when there's some effort on her part. So she had moved on from receiving to responding. Okay. So when you are doing something based on the information or awareness that you have, then you have moved up to the second level. And with my mother-in-law, in terms of the value of trying to quit smoking, she was then in responding. But still at the same time, she tried to get someone to buy a cigarette for her, even when she was being hospitalized. She was very cheeky, okay? She is a very cheeky lady. Okay. So for that particular behavior, for that particular value, she was at the responding level for a long, long time. It didn't even get here. Okay. And once she had been discharged, she went for physiotherapy. She had gotten so much better, and then the old habit kicked back in. So when the old habit of smoking kicked back in, she went back to being a heavy smoker. And then, in terms of the levels on this taxonomy, she went down from responding, going back to receiving. Because responding requires sustained behavior, right? So, in her part, the behavior of trying to quit smoking was not sustained. It was not sustained. So, she went back to number one, just receiving. So this went on for several years. She had recuperated well. She had recovered, though the body was not the same because she was old. She was 65 when she got the first stroke attack. She was half paralyzed for several months. Even though the body was not the same, she was being healthy again. She could do house chores. She can still cook and everything. And then she went back to being a heavy smoker until she was struck with the second stroke attack. All right, an old lady having to endure two stroke attacks. Can you imagine that? So when she was being hospitalized for the second time, of course, the doctors were very, very upset. And really, really give her a strong warning, like, Makcik, you really, really have to quit smoking. And then she went back to responding. She did try to quit smoking. And I guess after several days of quitting smoking, she started to see the value of not smoking. You know, there's this one. I'm sorry, I'm going off the track a little bit. It's just that when I was in Melbourne studying for a master's and my PhD, we used tram a lot in Melbourne. That's one of the most main transportation. So interestingly, there was this one poster on the tram, and this poster, just one poster, this poster basically explains what will happen to your body in 1 month from day 1 to day 30 when you quit smoking. So I thought that was very interesting because all this time when we watch advertisement or slogan or campaign for quitting smoking, it's always about the bad or the issues with smoking. But this approach was very refreshing to me. So I believe that after several days of not having cigarette, she started to feel different. Maybe she felt healthier, maybe she could breathe easier and she can talk easier, maybe her body function became better. And when you started seeing the value of that particular behavior, then you move up from responding to valuing. Okay. So just by seeing the value and understanding that these values are important, okay, and you understand that these values will make your life better or may improve your life, whatever it is, okay, depending on the value that you are having at that particular moment. So you will be moving from responding to the third level, which is valuing. And when you have positive perception towards the new behavior, in relation to my mother-in-law, she has quit smoking. Now she has valued the new regime, which is not smoking. And she's trying to organize her life in such a way that allows her not to smoke. Okay, for example, you have always wanted to lose weight, always wanted, okay, receiving, but not doing anything, just have the wish or the dream to lose weight. But the moment you sign up for gym registration, for example, so that's responding. And when you go to gym and exercise and you start to see the benefits of that on your body, you might feel lighter, you can walk faster without feeling tired, for example, then you start to see the value of that particular behavior, going to gym. And after you are valuing this, you want to accommodate this new behavior as part of your life, right? Maybe being a working woman, going to gym is difficult with the kids going to school, with me having to go to work. So I have to reshuffle back my life. I have to reprioritize back my life. I need to do something. Maybe I need to adjust. I need to adjust my current schedule, for example, to enable me to go to gym for half an hour. So when I do something to my life to accommodate this new behavior, then I have gone up from valuing to the fourth level, which is organizing. Okay, and from organizing, so my mother-in-law has not smoked anymore. She's trying to eat healthy. She went to physiotherapy. I'm like having more interactions with the kids just to forget the notions of smoking. So that's organizing. When you do something to your life, you accommodate the behavior into your existing life. And after a while of doing this, and when that new behavior becomes you, okay, when this new behavior defines who you are, then you move up from organizing to characterizing. When that particular behavior becomes part of your character, it's you. For example, when she goes somewhere and when she talks about smoking, she can say, I'm not a smoker, I'm a non-smoker. Okay. For example, you think that you have eaten a lot of meat and you wanted to convert to being a vegan, for example. Okay. And if you have achieved characterizing, this is when you are a vegan. It's defined who you are. So characterizing is when that particular behavior becomes part of your lifestyle and it becomes permanent part of your lifestyle. So that's how you move on from the lowest level to the highest level. And of course, with many things in life, right? Sometimes with one particular value, we are stuck here. Sometimes with other values, we are here. Sometimes it's here. Sometimes we reject. So I hope that with this example, you have clear understanding of how the different levels on this taxonomy works. I think it's interesting to learn about this taxonomy, and it opens your mind to different things in life. Like, for example, now you have understood how cognitive taxonomy works. Look at affective. It helps you to reflect back on your life for every single behavior, actions, and value that you have in your life. Where are you with regard to the levels on this taxonomy? Okay, so basically that's what the taxonomy is about in terms of how each level functions and how you move from one level to another. You can read the information that I've given for each of the slides here. Okay, so basically, when it comes to affective taxonomy, the way to assess these attributes is not similar to the way we assess cognitive. Cognitive is quite easy in terms of assessment because cognitive skills can be demonstrated and they are observable. Okay, they can be seen, and when they are observable, we can measure. The traits that we are assessing are measurable. But when it comes to affective domain, because it is ingrained deep inside us, appreciations, values, recognitions, patriotism, sometimes they are not being translated into behavior. We have it, but we don't show it. Hence, it's very, very difficult to measure. And the assessment tasks that are available to measure affective domain are limited and not as much as the assessment tasks that we have for cognitive domain. But in my experience, the best assessment task to demonstrate effective educational outcomes would be assessment task that is process based in nature that have to be carried out over a several period of time. For example, reflective journal is very common when it comes to assessing affective domain. We do have a reflective journal as one of the requirements for our practicum teachers when you go for your practical attachment later in semester 7 or semester 8. So one of the assignments that you have to do is to have daily entry for your reflective journal. And the main reason for us requiring you to do this is because we want to see how you develop emotionally in terms of your experience being a teacher. So I love reflective journal because it has this personal and customization aspect as well as it is being provided or produced on a daily basis over a period of time. So other assessments that also can be utilized to measure effective outcomes would be self-assessment, peer assessment, case study. So depending on the outcomes that you are trying to measure, these assessments are wonderful. All right. So based on today's video, we have looked at the Krathwohl taxonomy of affective domain. We have gotten a bit of understanding of the difference between cognitive and affective, particularly how each level on affective taxonomy works and how you move up and down from one level to another. So we have looked at levels, we have looked at functions, the learning outcome as well as the differences. So if you do have any questions, please leave your comments and questions underneath this video. And the slides which I'm using in this video is downloadable from my MOOC page. So I'm going to leave the link to download these slides underneath this video as well. Where exactly is my hands? Okay, it's here. Okay, so with that, thank you so much for your time. Till we meet again next time. So all the best with the rest of your assignments this semester. Take care, stay positive, and stay awesome. Bye, guys. Good day and assalamualaikum.